Pilgrims' Years in Leiden, a journey of faith, freedom, and resilience before the Mayflower opening hook. Imagine a bustling Dutch city in the early 17th century, a place of canals, windmills, textile factories, and diverse peoples seeking refuge and opportunity. It was here in Leiden, far from their English homeland, that a small group of determined separatists, later called the Pilgrims, found a fragile sanctuary where they might practice their faith freely. Yet life in Leiden was far from easy. Overcrowded neighborhoods, hard labor, and economic challenges tested their resolve. For over a decade, this city became their home, their stronghold of hope, and the last chapter in their European journey before crossing the Atlantic to found Plymouth Colony. Their Leiden years shaped their community, faith, and vision, setting the stage for a new beginning in a new world. Origins of the Pilgrims. Seeking freedom from England. The Pilgrims were English separatists who rejected the Church of England's practices, desiring pure worship according to their Calvinist beliefs. This dissent brought persecution under Queen Elizabeth I and intensified under her successor, James I, who fined, imprisoned, and even executed those who defied the Anglican Church. The Pilgrims' refusal to attend state-sanctioned services pushed them underground, culminating in their flight from England. The move to the Netherlands and arrival in Leiden around 1607 to 1608. The Pilgrims first escaped to Amsterdam, a city known for its relative religious tolerance. However, they soon moved to Leiden in 1609. Leiden was then a vibrant university town and one of the Netherlands' largest urban centers. Boasting a thriving textile industry that drew immigrants from across Europe, the city offered legal protections, religious freedom, and a welcoming attitude to honest newcomers, provided they obeyed local laws. The Pilgrims settled primarily around the area of the Pieterskerk St. Peter's Church, where their leader, Pastor John Robinson, secured a letter from the city guaranteeing their right to live and worship. Life in Leiden. Challenges and community. Though Leiden granted safety, it did not promise comfort. The Pilgrims lived modest lives in cramped quarters, often working in tough textile factory jobs, breweries, and trades that required little Dutch language skill. Many arrived poor, unable to afford the journey to the New World right away. Despite hardships, they maintained a strong community spirit, deeply rooted in their faith. Pastor Robinson organized the congregation with emphasis on worship, education, and mutual support. The group purchased land and built homes near the Pieterskerk, slowly growing to around 300 members. Social and economic conditions in Leiden. Leiden's population boomed during this period due to waves of refugees from Spanish Catholics fleeing the 80 Years' War, Huguenots and others seeking refuge from religious strife across Europe. The city's textile mills were central to its economy, but demanded long hours for modest wages. The Pilgrims contributed both as workers and entrepreneurs, with some establishing weaving shops, such as William Bradford's. Their integration was pragmatic. They adopted Dutch customs, took up trades, but preserved English language and religious rights privately. Religious freedom and Dutch tolerance. Dutch society in the early 1600s was notable for relative religious tolerance, but dissenters still faced social challenges and political pressures. The English government complained to Dutch authorities about the Pilgrims printing prohibited religious texts, and their refusal to conform to Anglicanism. Still, city officials in Leiden valued economic productivity and upheld policies allowing non-Dutch worshippers. This tolerance made Leiden a crucible for religious experimentation and dialogue, though the Pilgrims remained insular, wary of wider cultural assimilation, education, and intellectual life. Leiden University, one of Europe's leading centers of learning, was a beacon for religious scholars and thinkers. Though the Pilgrims themselves were generally modest in stature, they kept close intellectual ties, sending young men for study and maintaining missionary zeal. Pastor Robinson championed education, emphasizing literacy so members could read the scriptures in the original languages. This dedication to study would later influence governance and culture in their New England communities. The decision to leave Leiden. After roughly a decade in Leiden, changing political and economic circumstances motivated the Pilgrims to seek new horizons. Although safety was assured, Leiden's economic opportunities were limited, and concerns over losing their English identity grew. Moreover, pressure from English authorities intensified, and the Dutch Reformed Church was uneasy with the separatists' rigid practices. Migration promised the chance to build a society purely founded on their religious ideals, free from foreign influence and future persecution. Preparations for the journey. securing ships and funding negotiations with English investors, including merchant Thomas Weston and the Virginia Company, facilitated the landmark voyage. Initially, the Pilgrims arranged to depart on the Speedwell from Delfshaven in the Dutch harbor and meet the Mayflower in Southampton. The Pilgrims carefully selected who would embark on the expedition: families, skilled craftsmen, and leaders, while planning for subsequent groups to follow. Their leader, Pastor Robinson, remained in Leiden initially, intending to join later. The departure from Leiden and Legacy. On July 21, 1620, the Pilgrims and their associates held a farewell feast in Leiden, a moment of solemn hope. From here they moved toward Delfshaven to board the Speedwell, which proved unseaworthy, forcing the entire expedition to consolidate on the Mayflower. Their years in Leiden forged the social bonds, religious convictions, and communal governance that shaped Plymouth Colony and influenced American cultural identity. The legacy of those years persists in Leiden's museums, churches, and annual commemorations that honor the Pilgrims' courage and quest for freedom. Conclusion: the Pilgrims' years in Leiden were the crucible of faith, endurance, and community that prepared them for the untamed challenges of the New World. Their stay was marked by hardship and hope, isolation and integration, preparation and transformation. Understanding this chapter enriches the story of America's founding and highlights Leiden's role as a vital haven of religious freedom during one of Europe's most turbulent eras.